After fleeing Afghanistan, an Afghan family began building a new life in Britain. The house was supposed to represent safety and stability. Instead, they would soon begin reporting experiences they could not explain. Inside, everything appeared ordinary. The family unpacked their belongings and began adjusting to their new surroundings. Nothing suggested what would eventually make them afraid to remain there after dark. When night arrived, the character of the house seemed to change. The rooms became silent, and ordinary sounds became much harder to identify. Then came the noises. Sounds inside the house began disturbing the family. At first, they could be dismissed as ordinary, but as they continued, that explanation became harder to accept. The family began finding objects displaced or damaged. Individually, each incident had an explanation. Together, they began forming a pattern that frightened them. The disturbances did not stop. More household objects were reportedly found broken or out of place, increasing the sense that something was happening when they were not watching. The family began asking the question that would shape the entire case. Was something inside the house? For people whose traditions included belief in Jinn, the disturbances suggested a possibility that felt very real. One reported incident involved a cup found broken. To the family, these were no longer isolated accidents. They were signs of a deliberate disturbance. At night, the sounds continued. Every unexplained noise now carried a new possibility. Perhaps they were not alone. They believed a jinn could be responsible. From that point forward, the house was no longer simply unfamiliar. It had become a place that might contain something unseen. The family no longer felt comfortable. Ordinary rooms became places of suspicion. Every sound seemed to suggest something unseen was moving through the house. Sleep was interrupted by sounds and disturbances. Their fear was beginning to affect every part of their daily life. The possibility that a jinn was responsible was no longer simply a frightening thought. It became their primary explanation. Then, a presence was perceived. At first, it was difficult to describe, but they would eventually report something far more frightening. A frightening figure was reportedly seen. The family described it as male, but its appearance was unlike any ordinary person. The reported figure did not remain a single fleeting impression. Each sighting reinforced their belief that something unseen was present. The figure was reportedly perceived as headless. To the family, they were seeing something from another realm. The figure was also described as having claw-like hands. The image was terrifying, a headless presence standing inside their home. For the family, the explanation was clear. They believed a jinn had entered their lives. Eventually, their story reached professionals who would interpret the events very differently. The clinicians listened to the reports of noises and frightening figures, but they were looking for another explanation. There were now two very different ways to understand the events. To them, a jinn. To the clinicians, psychological stress. The clinicians had to distinguish between a culturally meaningful belief and experiences with another psychological cause. The clinicians did not confirm a jinn. Instead, the case was assessed as adjustment disorder, a result of life changes and stress. But a diagnosis did not erase the family's interpretation. Their experiences had been frightening and very real to them. Eventually, the family moved into housing within an Afghan community, providing a stronger connection to their culture and language. Then something changed. After the move, the reported concerns about the jinn ceased. The disturbances were no longer being reported. Back at the original house, there was no final apparition, just an ordinary home. And that may be what makes the case so difficult to explain. So, what happened? The family believed in a jinn. The clinicians believed in psychological factors. Neither interpretation can completely settle the mystery. The family experienced something they believed was a jinn. Their fear was real, but what really happened remains an open question.